Mr. Chairman, sir, I join you, sir, as also the Honorable Prime Minister, in wishing all our colleagues and the Indian people the very best on this momentous occasion when the Indian Parliament has completed its 60th year. I feel privileged to be in the company of Mr. Rishangi Singh, the eldest member of this House, who had the distinction of serving as a member of the first Lok Sabha in 1952. It's not only a tribute to his good health and stamina, but also to his credibility that he has sustained the upheavals of politics for more than 6 decades, and we are privileged to have him amidst us today, sir. Sir, today is an occasion for us to celebrate. It's an occasion to rejoice. It's also an occasion to introspect and prepare ourselves for the challenges of the future. The Honorable Prime Minister just now in his very scholarly address has highlighted the role of this House and the functions that it has performed over the last 6 decades. He has also briefly towards the end referred to the challenges which lie ahead of us. 60 years, sir, is a very major event in the life of an individual. We regard it for an individual as an age of maturity. The governments regard it as an age where individuals get fatigued and they retire them. But in the life of a nation, 60 years is only a drop in the ocean. 60 years in the life of a nation is a period where the foundations of a system are laid down and a direction to each society is given. It is this direction in which we got in the last 60 years which has brought us to where India stands today. Sir, 65 years ago, when we achieved our independence, we had many goals. But amongst our principal targets was to preserve the unity and integrity of India. How to develop India into a functional democracy and how to sustain the very institutions which are so vital to a democracy. We also had the target of fighting the curse of poverty and backwardness, which long years of foreign rule had inflicted on us. We were particularly faced with the challenge of unity and integrity and the preservation of the Indian state, because that was a period when many countries in the world were breaking up. The prophets of doom were not very sure whether India would ever survive as one state in the size and shape in which it got its independence. We faced more wars than most countries in the world. We faced natural calamities almost by the year. Nobody else has faced cross-border terrorism longer than what we faced. We were a country of different regions, different languages, different religions, different tribes, different castes. Many regarded us as a puzzle. How could this survive? And the last 60-65 years we have demonstrated to the whole world that we not only survived, we survived to become a major power and a major force in the world itself. It's a tribute to our sense of nationhood, our heritage, our cultural personality, and the deep sense of patriotism of the Indian people that we have survived in this manner, sir. It's a tribute to our parliamentary system that despite divergence, despite ideological differences, when it came to the call of the nation, we all stood up and spoke in one voice. In December 2001, when this very parliament was attacked, it was not merely an attack on a building, it was on the very idea of India, on our institution of parliamentary democracy, perhaps a conspiracy to eliminate a large section of India's political leadership. I pay my tribute, sir, to our security personnel and others who guarded us on that day and gave up their own lives in the process. On each of these occasions, various constituents of Indian democracy spoke up in one voice. And that, I think, was the best tribute to the nation that we have created in the last 65 years. The last 6 decades, sir, have seen many democracies in the world collapse. They collapsed to monarchies, they collapsed to dictators, they collapsed to despotic rulers. For any developed economy in the world which had tasted the fruits of economic prosperity, to survive as a democracy was always easy. But for a poor state to survive and strengthen its democracy was the biggest challenge. From poverty we evolved to a developing economy. Not only did we survive, we have the distinction of becoming the world's largest parliamentary democracy today. So we had a challenge because poverty can provoke cynicism. It can provoke anger. Despite that, we did not allow this to in any way interfere with our democratic functioning. And this, sir, perhaps is the greatest tribute to the founding fathers of our Constitution, who envisaged this great system of parliamentary democracy and a bicameral house which the Honorable Prime Minister just now spoke about. Parliamentary democracy, a system perhaps best suited to us, where all shades of opinion, from ideological opinion or otherwise, became a part of the decision-making process in this country. The advantage of a bicameral system was that you had a house directly elected by a people, and you had the states through this house participate in the governance of the central government. We, as their representatives constituting the House Council of States, participate as much as the House of People in the formulation of laws and most other businesses of the central government. So over the last 6 decades, we can take satisfaction. We sustained our permanent executive in terms of our civil service. We strengthened and have always, despite Fisher's, tried to strengthen our system of federalism in this country. We remain committed to a governance by the rule of law. We gave primacy to fundamental rights. We created independent institutions like the judicial institutions, which can check us when we go wrong. We also learned from our mistakes. We made the basic structure of our Constitution non-amendable, so that nobody can tinker with it. After the experience of the mid-70s, we made fundamental rights non-suspendable even during an emergency. Not only this, sir, we learned from the experiences of our neighbors and created a professional armed force completely detached from the domestic politics of the country. Our system of conducting free and fair elections is a system which is emulated by even the most developed nations of the world. These were our strengths, sir. But then we also have challenges for the future, sir. People look upon both houses of parliament and this house to improve the quality of politics and governance. The power of politics is immense. It influences the life of a nation. And therefore the stature of the men who man this system must always measure up to the responsibility that the country has vested in them. This improved quality of politics, sir, has to lead to good quality of governance. We have always taken satisfaction that we grow by 7 to 9%. We do this despite various difficulties and challenges in governance. If we were to perfect the model of good governance, perhaps this figure, which the Honorable Prime Minister repeatedly speaks about, could even be far higher. Our norms of accountability, sir, once they improve, cynicism with regard to Parliament and parliamentary functioning will have to be brought to an end. Cynicism leads to angers. Anger can lead to crowds on the road. But it's Parliament which is accountable. The mobs are never accountable. And therefore there is no substitute for the credibility of the parliamentary institution and a popular faith as far as its functioning is concerned. So over the years, our constitutional values have also evolved. They've never remained static. Between 1950 and today, there's a fundamental change. We had more of a centralized governance, centralized planning, centralized schemes, because we thought the unity and integrity of the country was paramount. Today, we can be rest assured that we've overcome those challenges. Today, it's the regional aspirations of the people which are posing more challenges. And therefore, to lean greater in favor of federalism seems to be the need of the hour today. Sir, this House represents really in action the parliamentary democracy and the political system of India. We have the challenge that this country must achieve its full potential. Poverty, backwardness, discrimination, these are all curses. And therefore, we have, to the extent possible, on all these social and economic agendas, endeavor to have a larger consensus to the extent possible so that we can respond to the challenge which this country really has vested in us. Sir, social justice, emphasis on education, elimination of poverty, healthcare, women's empowerment, these are all challenges which are going to be greater challenges in the decade to come. We still continue to face the curse of terrorism and insurgency. Let us resolve that there is no politics on these issues. They are a threat to this country. And therefore, eventually, even with regard to the insurgency, we not only eliminate it, but the strength of our parliamentary democracy would be that those who rebel outside the system, perhaps one day we are able to get them within this parliamentary system, sir. And lastly, Central Parliament is only the pivotal agency of parliamentary democracy. You have the state legislatures, we now have decentralized democracy, you have the municipalities, the Jila Panchayats and the Panchayats. The way we conduct ourselves is going to be a role model for each of these agencies, which are also so vital to our democracy. Our conduct, our quality of debate, our ability to resolve differences, and finally work in national interest, perhaps is the area where people judge us. And I'm sure this is an important occasion in the life of our nation where we can discuss and perhaps resolve how to overcome these challenges and give to the people of India what they really expect from this Parliament. Thank you very much, sir.